All right. Well, Dr. Young, thank you so much for taking time to sit down with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Stephanie.
So for those of you guys who are just joining us, I'm Stephanie, obviously, and I've got Dr. Terence Young here with me today. Dr. Young, Cindy connected us. Cindy Ashton connected us.
Correct.
She was one of our speakers at Grow 2020, and she said, you got to talk to this guy. He's got a really cool topic about leadership, but it's different. And I said, okay, well, that fits in with our theme for Grow, all of our Grow retreats. It all has to be different. We don't want to hear the same stuff we've heard on 40 other stages. So I said, all right, let me talk with this guy. And then we sat down, and it was really, I was sitting there and I was like, wow, this is really good stuff. I love this stuff. Like, this gets me excited. So I am super excited that everyone gets the chance to kind of get some insight on leadership, but different. So before we dig into all of that, though, let's talk a little bit about you, Dr. Terence Young. So what's your story? How did you get started? When did you decide you want to be a doctor?
I wanted to be a doctor as far back as I can remember. I was that odd kid that always knew what he wanted to do. I just didn't know specifically the pathway that I would end up with. Right now, I'm practicing OBGYN. But originally, I thought I wanted to be just like the bad cardiothoracic surgeon, do the heart transplants, things of that nature. But with OBGYN, it's really a people person specialty compared to other specialties, because you have to build that level of trust, me being African-American man, working with women all the time. Those are my only clients. So it's a very rewarding practice. It's very cerebral as far as the thought process. You have to really think on your feet quick, because emergencies can come up in an instant. Very technical due to the complex surgeries that I do. So it gives me a little bit of everything.
Nice. And so your background as far as business goes, because that was one of the things when we first sat down and chatted, I was like, okay, I'm interested, but we say everyone who gets on the Grow Retreat stage is a business person. So what's your background? And I know you were telling me, but I'll let you share. What is your background in business? How did you end up, stepping into part owner of a practice and all the business experience you brought to the table now?
Right now, I would say about 7 or 8 years ago, I was really in a space where I was starting to get burned out from the medical profession. And I wanted to look at different things that I can do as far as using the skills and the strategies that I learned as a physician, as far as the mindset, being able to understand people, being able to talk with people, and how can I translate that into the business aspect. So through my organization, got involved with a long relationship with personal development, doing personal development courses as far as mindset training, leadership training, started from being a student to being the coach, to being the leader that would lead small groups of people, then started doing that one-on-one with clients. Right now, it's a great environment because in the environment of COVID-19, you have so many healthcare practitioners that are just simply going to get burned out. So my latest project, I've already started that on LinkedIn as a test project to build content and courses for clinician and physician burnout, and working with my partner, Dr. Paul Rand, who has extensive history as a heuristic psychologist, working with the US government, working with the Department of Defense, specifically with veterans. We have so many veterans that are suffering from PTSD, which is not unlike physician burnout. So in the upcoming fall, and going into next spring, starting to launch online coursework with these practitioners as far as helping them overcome PTSD. Actually talking about that with a couple of organizations next week as well. But that's my passion right now, growing the clientele with the practitioners as far as PTSD, and then also events like yourself with the assistance of Dr. Paul Rand, working with small businesses, working with larger companies to help create that leadership culture within the organization.
Yeah. So let's talk about this whole leadership culture, this idea of leadership, but different, because It really, like, when we talk leadership and leadership coaching, leadership consulting, leadership training, everyone thinks about, let me get my leaders, me and my like top lieutenants in there. But your approach to leadership is really, and I remember our very first interview, you said something that stuck in my head. And you said, really what leadership comes down to, and this is the Stephanie paraphrase for our listeners, because I don't remember the exact words, but the concept stuck in my head. He must have probably said it a lot more eloquently. But he said, the idea is that so many times we focus on leadership as a top-down concept. But when you can get every single person in the organization approaching their role from a position of leadership, you end up with a janitor who takes it very seriously to clean and do his work well. You end up with every person taking ownership. And that's the key that so many small business owners are looking for, is they end up with employees. Your payroll is your highest, your highest expense on the P&L. And you end up with people who aren't engaged, right? I think
Exactly.
last study in the US, it's a few years old, but I think they were still saying, 2/3 of the employees in the US are disengaged at some level from work. So you guys came and you said, all right, we're not just going to fix things from the top down. We're going to address the whole organization. How did you land on this, that it's not just, the boss and his lieutenants, that it's a holistic effect?
Well, just by collaboration with Dr. Paul Rand, we met mutually through his wife, who used to be a labor and delivery nurse in my job here in Illinois. Now he works in the Seattle, Washington area. Well, he's been in the Seattle, Washington area for the last 20 plus years. And Seattle is a prime example of when you perfectly apply that culture of leadership, you can see the organizational growth. He's worked one-on-one with companies such as Amazon, such as Boeing, to instill this culture of leadership, this mindset, and this organizational strategy where you're creating that atmosphere where everyone feels empowered to generate their own ideas, generate their own suggestions. It's not, like you mentioned in the beginning, a top-down leadership model. It's actually a leadership from the bottom up, because the bottom are your main workers. They're your foundation. And if you take that top approach, working your way down, you only have but so much mental energy, so much physical energy, so many ideas to be able to generate. But if you focus on the base and you create that atmosphere when you empower everybody to contribute, to feel like I'm not just an employee, I'm a part, I'm a core of this organization, you're going to advance so much more with your business going forward.
That's awesome. And I think it is the secret that everyone's kind of been looking for, this, because you think about how many employees you have, how many, and I like to encourage people to think beyond just your employees. Think about your contractors, your vendor. I mean, think about the people you are touching that are impacting the growth of your business on a very, very direct scale. If you can get, and it's been interesting because when I hire a vendor, I treat that vendor like an employee almost, in that I don't treat that vendor like an employee for, tax purposes. We'll clarify that. But as far as, like, I make them go through an interview process. They have to sit down and go through a series of questions with me. And what I found is I end up with a vendor who really takes ownership of the outcome, what they're supposed to deliver. And I think it's crucial. I'm really excited because I think this is key to our theme of impact. We have our
Absolutely.
thing, right? It's key to this. You want to make an impact on your employees, empower them, like really truly empower them. Don't make this a buzzword, bold, BS, right?
Exactly.
So give us a sneak peek. Give us a sneak peek. What are some of the, like, when you're talking about how do you create leadership from the top down or from the bottom up, really, how do you do this? Where do we start?
Well, it has to start with the business owner or the person that's already at the top first. And then we start with the mindset, stepping back and looking at your organization and looking at yourself. Is this the organization that I want to have in the next 20 years, as far as Do my employees feel like they have ownership in the organization? Are my employees happy? What is the way that I think about myself? How do I rate my own leadership skills? How are my internal thoughts being externalized as far as my actions? How do I talk to my people? How do I interact with my people? So it has to start with that owner first as far as the mindset. And then once they have that mindset as far as understanding who they are, then they ask that question, why am I like this? And what are some of the things that I like to change going forward in order to start to develop the foundation, the seeds of that leadership culture?
That's awesome. And I think that can be really hard for a lot of business owners to have that honest conversation. Do you guys do assessments with the owners, or how do you help them kind of get
Yes,
that clear
actually.
picture?
There are assessments that we do with the owners, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the initial presentation, and then go deeper into that with the workshop. There are assessments that we do for the employees, because you have to understand, if you want to take that top-down approach, you can give assignments or orders or job descriptions to your employees. But think about it. Are you really playing to their strengths? Are you really maximizing everything that you can get out of that employee? So there are tools that I can show you that you can use. This is the way my employee thinks. This is how they act. These are their best attributes. So instead of just randomly giving them assignments to do, why don't I just give them things that work best with their personality, with their work style? So there are definitely tools out there that I'll be able to show you how to implement that.
Nice. I love that you said that, because that is where my head goes. That I'm like, I talk about the energy advantage to my team. I'm like, we need to bring out your energy. We need to find that thing that gets you excited. And
Absolutely.
it pays off. They come to me again and again where they're like, oh, I went above and beyond over here. I did this thing, because they get excited about the work they're doing. And so I love it. I'm super excited. I wish we could go deeper. I know we will go a lot deeper at the Grow
Yes, we
Retreat.
will.
Every time we chat, I'm like, I want to ask more, like, I just want to like tug the thread and see it all like unravel. And I know you guys have years and years of research into this stuff, right?
A ton of research. Like I said in the beginning, the research that he took from working with PTSD trauma veterans, understanding the mindset, and then that developed into his work as a White House fellow, his endorsements from the Department of Defense as far as being able to help turn around these veterans in a period of less than a year that the DoD could not do in multiple years, because he understands that the key is focusing on mindset. And once you optimize that person's mindset and thought process, they're just capable of doing so much more.
I'm really, as you're talking, I'm really interested, because I'm thinking, like, how many times do entrepreneurs, and I don't want to compare what entrepreneurs end up going through to what veterans end up going through, but we end up sometimes in similar situations. Like, I remember working with one client who called me and he said, Steph, I think I just had a heart attack. And I said, well, why are you calling me? Like, first of all, I think there's someone else you should call. Like, it's a much shorter phone number. He goes, no, I'm fine. It's all calmed down. But I was playing with the kids, and all of a sudden I couldn't, I just heard, I think it was just a really bad anxiety attack. I said, well, why don't you go to the hospital anyhow, just in case? And then, like, let's talk through this. And we end up putting so much stress on ourselves and so much pressure that we almost reach this point where we can't be a good leader. We can't lead the team because we're in this nasty headspace, right? Have
Exactly.
you guys seen this? I mean, as you're talking, I was like, oh, this is I was connecting dots. I don't know if you guys have seen the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. It's like you said, it's so many people get stuck in their own stuff, as far as, especially when you're leading from the top down approach. And that's the other negative aspect to it. If you're leading from the top down approach and you're the person that's stuck in your stuff, your organization either shuts down or it slows down. But if you take that reverse role where you have multiple leaders, like I'm down today. I don't have that thought process, but I know I got 4 or 5 other strong people on the team that can keep everything clicking and moving forward. That's just an optimal thing.
That's awesome. Well, I am super excited. For those of you guys who are listening and going, I think I could use this in my organization. Maybe get a little stress off my shoulders. Let's get the organization really firing. We would love to have you guys join us at the Grow Retreat. It is happening live in January 2021, the 14th and 15th. We have rented a venue that is 4 times our capacity, so we will make sure there is lots of space between people. I was laughing earlier. He said, "This is such a good time, the COVID-19 pandemic." And I was like, I think he may be the only doctor I've ever heard reference this as a good time. But we would. The Grow Retreat is an invitation-only event. If you're interested in getting more information about what Dr. Young is going to be talking about, what the rest of our speakers are going to be talking about, go to www.thegrowretreat.com. We'll drop it in the comments too, so no stress. And check it out. And if it looks like it's up your alley, you can request an interview and we can get you started to see if we want to extend an invitation for you to join us at the event live here in San Antonio. Dr. Young, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you and to your audience in San Antonio in January.
Absolutely. In the meantime, guys, go out there and lead. I'm not a leadership speaker, but I'm gonna encourage you guys to go out there and make it a great week regardless. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Take care, all.